Spoofs get a bad rap, but it's not all spoofs that are to blame. It's just most of them.
That Taco Bell ain't sitting right.
Spoofs rely on a shared cultural understanding, but the best parodies are funny enough as comedies that you don't even have to get what they're referencing. With the greatest parodies, almost everything about them is funny, from the editing to the sound design,
Attaboy.
and especially the dialogue.
Don't tell me which zone is for stopping and which zone is for loading.
Listen, Betty, don't start up with your white zone shit again.
Parodies have been around just as long as film itself, so I'm not going to talk about every one. I'm going to talk about the quote-unquote modern history of the cinematic parody, focusing specifically on films released between 1970 and 2024. Blazing Saddles tells the story of Bart, a black railroad worker who gets elected as sheriff of an extremely racist Wild West town. And it's basically, Isn't That Racist? The movie. The jokes, especially the ones that work, are so few and far between that it ends up feeling like whole chunks of the movie fall flat. There's a 5-minute song and dance sequence later in the film that goes on for about 5 minutes too long. All 3 laughs I got from the movie were actually within the first 30 minutes. All jokes about the Wild West being a shitty place to live, which I actually found kind of funny.
Our town is turning into shit.
There are a couple clever visual gags, especially the backwards portrait. The film has a symbolically interesting ending where the leads ride off in friendship and racial harmony. Then the leads hop off their horses and into a car, as if to literally jump into the future. Despite the fact that I don't think Blazing Saddles is very funny at all as a comedy, I have to give it props for having a point. And with that, we have the start of our rankings. Mel Brooks' next effort was Young Frankenstein, also released in 1974, which not only saw the return of Gene Wilder, but was co-written by him. The film has some funny line delivery and blocking.
Some warm milk, perhaps?
And it puts a lot of effort into presentation. While Young Frankenstein isn't hilarious, it is charming for fans of the original. And I would definitely put this a notch above Blazing Saddles, even though I don't see myself returning to it. That brings me to 1975's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's full of funny and memorable dialogue, which make up long, run-on conversations. Something about their Britishness makes these line deliveries land and stick in my mind.
Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
It has probably the funniest opening credits in any movie I've ever seen, and a unique animation style which adds a lot of character. It's a comedy I would recommend to everyone, and it absolutely dominates the rankings so far. Next up, we have Mel Brooks' 1976 effort, Silent Movie. I found it kind of charming and I smiled a lot, and the film's affinity for the silent film era is clear, but by limiting itself to the silent movie format, the film comedically restricts itself. Silent dialogue lacks delivery and timing. So the comedy relies entirely on the strength of writing in the title cards and how they complement the visuals. And to put it bluntly, the writing isn't very funny. And to make it worse, the visual gags aren't very funny. So far, this takes an easy spot at the bottom of the rankings. Mel Brooks quickly followed up Silent Movie with 1977's High Anxiety. It's a parody of Alfred Hitchcock's work, and Mel Brooks really nails the stylistic imitation, from the cinematography to the music, to the breathy phone conversations.
It would make me happy.
I'd put it just a notch below Young Frankenstein, but it's a decent comedy. Next up is the 1977 sketch anthology film, The Kentucky Fried Movie. This is the first film written by comedy filmmaking trio Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker, who would go on to become some of the biggest names in the genre. It's also the second film directed by John Landis. The film's sketch comedy format really helps it stand out in the parody genre, spoofing everything from commercials to morning TV, to sexploitation and court dramas, to a strangely long spoof of Enter the Dragon, which becomes funnier and funnier as it goes along.
Now, take him to be tortured!
And there were various jokes and some entire sketches that had me laughing really hard, particularly the boom mic sketch, the commercial for the company that keeps dead people around so they can be included,
We have them to thank for our family's newfound togetherness.
and the scot-free board game sketch.
Bonus card. You get Jack Ruby to kill your patsy. That's good because dead men don't talk.
Now that being said, not every sketch lands. Some feel a little cheaper than others, but there's something about Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker's zaniness and wackiness that I find really charming. They're just throwing a bunch of jokes at the wall and seeing what sticks. And remarkably, a lot of the jokes land. And it's clear to see why the Zucker style would go on to more or less define parody in the 80s. This one takes the number 2 spot right behind the Holy Grail. Rounding out the 70s, we have Monty Python's 1979 film, The Life of Brian. It's somewhat of a parody of the biblical story of Jesus, but mainly it's just a comedy in a biblical setting. There's a bit about bartering, which is funny in premise, but not so much in execution, and one about the Latin language, which didn't quite land either. I kept waiting for the scenes to go somewhere really funny, and they just never did. The Life of Brian is definitely a cleverly written religious satire and has some insight, but for me, comedy's all about sheer number of laughs. And I would put it just a notch below High Anxiety. Starting off the 80s with a bang, we have the 1980 film Airplane, which was not only written by the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrahams, but directed by them as well in their directorial debut. With the Zuckers behind the camera, their zaniness is cranked up to 11, and they managed to take something I'm very unfamiliar with, the airplane disaster genre, and make it into something hilarious. Before Airplane was released, Leslie Nielsen was known for acting in serious films, and it's precisely his serious delivery and lack of wackiness that makes him so funny in the Zucker brothers' work. I find the excessive use of flashbacks absolutely hilarious. I love how seriously the two leads deliver their dialogue, even though it's the dumbest dialogue ever.
We're coming in from the north, below their radar.
When will you be back?
I can't tell you that. It's classified.
Airplane has such a devotion to stupidity that it's hard not to appreciate. It's a showcase of everything I love about parody movies and great comedies in general. Constantly creative and surprising. The guy opening the hood of the plane is so dumb that I had tears coming out of my eyes. This film is pure joy, and I would be doing it a disservice to place it anywhere lower than the number 1 spot. Next up is Mel Brooks' 1981 film History of the World Part 1. The film is a parody of epics and is somewhat of an anthology focusing on various periods in history. I don't want to seem like I'm just shitting on Mel Brooks because I have an enormous respect for the man, but I find his movies funnier in premise than execution. For instance, the bit where the guy gets picked up by the dinosaur might be funny if it was sudden and unexpected, but the fact that there's such a long buildup makes it fall completely flat. For me, a comedy should either have a lot of jokes or it should have jokes that build on themselves. But having one joke that's not very funny go on too long feels like torture in a comedy. There's a bit about critics just pissing on art, which ironically I found to be the funniest thing in the movie. So I would put History of the World Part 1 just above Silent Movie. Following the success of Airplane, Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker released Top Secret in 1984. Top Secret is a spoof of spy movies and World War II movies with a bit of Elvis thrown in there, and it had me laughing really hard almost the entire time. Without exaggeration, Top Secret has the best visual gags I've seen in a comedy. Not just for the sheer amount, but for how hard they land. It's also one of the most high-effort comedies I've ever seen, with some sequences that look like they would be a pain in the ass to pull off. And there's so many perfectly written and delivered lines.
They tore me from my family, ransacked my laboratory, and brought me to this dungeon.
That sucks.
Even something as simple as a character spitting had me rolling because of the sound of it and the way it was edited. Top Secret is a masterclass in comedy filmmaking, and it takes a pretty strong top spot in the rankings so far. Next, we have Mel Brooks' 1987 Star Wars parody Spaceballs. Spaceballs is one of the comedies I've seen most in my life. It's so nostalgic for me that I always enjoy it. The film has some good music, and some really solid effects, which were done by George Lucas's studio ILM, who did the effects for Star Wars. The film has quite a few memorable lines.
I'm a Mog. Half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend.
I always get a few good laughs out of it, and I would rank it just a slight notch above High Anxiety. Next, we have the 1988 film The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, the first film adaptation of Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker's 1982 show The Police Squad, which ran for 6 episodes. It's also the first of their many collaborations with writer Pat Proft. The Naked Gun is a parody of cop movies. There are some great visual gags and running gags, some funny dialogue which benefits heavily from Leslie Nielsen's excellent delivery.
Can I interest you in a nightcap?
No, thank you. I don't wear them.
and some jokes that get funnier as they go along. The Zuckers are great at taking a premise to its comedic extreme, and in The Naked Gun, this often takes the form of slapstick, with each subsequent hit building on the last. And I would recommend the film to fans of comedy in general, especially to people who like cop movies and film noir. I would rank The Naked Gun just below The Holy Grail. Following the success of the first film, The Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear was released in 1991, and it may have the greatest title for a film. The film was directed by David Zucker and written by himself and Pat Proft, and I do feel it lacks the collaboration of Jerry Zucker and Jim Abrahams. Although it was produced by them, the real magic happens when the three of them write and direct a film. That being said, it did have a couple really solid gags, a couple of which caught me very off guard, and are some of the funnier jokes in the entire series.
Give me the strongest thing you got.
On second thought, how about a Black Russian?
Very well, sir.
I guess I'm just...
And I would rank The Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear just above Young Frankenstein. Next up, we have the 1991 Top Gun parody Hot Shots, which was directed by Jim Abrahams and written by himself and Pat Proft. The film lacks the snappy direction and excellent delivery of films like Airplane and Top Secret. That being said, I did get a few good laughs out of it, particularly the Goose character being named Dead Meat and all the jokes that came from that.
I'm in a jet. What could go wrong?
Oh, dead meat. We just couldn't be any more perfectly happy.
But many of the jokes just didn't land. I just don't know if there's enough material in Top Gun to make a feature-length parody of, and the film has somewhat of an ugly look to it, and I would rank it a notch below Blazing Saddles. Jim Abrahams and Pat Proft followed up Hot Shots with 1993's Hot Shots Part 2, and I found the film to be an improvement over the first. Whereas its predecessor was mostly a Top Gun parody, Hot Shots Part 2 is mostly a parody of Rambo 2 and 3, which gives it a broader comedic range, allowing it to essentially spoof the action genre. There's a funny opening text gag that got a bigger laugh out of me than anything in the previous film, and there's a noticeable improvement in visual gags in general. Particularly, the film makes good use of background gags, which I felt were lacking in its predecessor, putting it a comedic notch above The Life of Brian, although I found The Life of Brian to be a more clever and well-constructed film overall. Next up, we have Mel Brooks' 1993 film Robin Hood: Men in Tights. Every performance in Men in Tights is as exaggerated as possible, and it's more annoying than endearing. The film opens with a song and dance sequence that made me want to die. There's a blind character in the film, the entire joke being that he's blind. The best part of the movie is Dom DeLuise, who does an amazing Vito Corleone impression.
It is quite a drive.
For the Godfather scene alone, I'm gonna rank it a notch above Blazing Saddles. That brings us to the conclusion of the Naked Gun trilogy, the 1994 film Naked Gun 33 1/3: The Final Insult. And I'm pleased to say, it's pretty funny and it's a solid conclusion to the trilogy. Newcomer Peter Siegel did a good job with the direction. Leslie Nielsen's delivery is excellent as usual.
Have you tried sexy lingerie? Some lacy underwear? A black teddy?
I've tried wearing them all. They don't work.
There's plenty of good dialogue from David Zucker and Pat Proft with the help of Robert Lokash, and some really clever visual gags. It's not often that a comedy classic gets two solid sequels, especially within the parody genre, so I was impressed by the trilogy overall, and I give these movies props for finally finding Waldo. I'm gonna rank Naked Gun 33 1/3: The Final Insult just below The Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear. Rounding out Mel Brooks' filmography as director is 1995's Dracula, Dead and Loving It. There's not a lot of material to make fun of in the 1931 Dracula film. Dracula, Dead and Loving It just felt like a bunch of people trying to be funny with not that much material, and it was a big slog that got one mild chuckle out of me. Mel Brooks' light parodies feel more like paying homage than hilarious comedies. I respect them as appreciations of art, but I would never recommend Dracula, Dead and Loving It to someone just trying to laugh, and I would rank it just below History of the World Part 1, which I felt was more creative. Next up, we have the 1997 James Bond parody, Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, written by, produced by, and starring Mike Myers. There are quite a few funny lines with solid delivery.
No. Danger's my middle name.
And all the performances are really funny except for maybe Will Ferrell, who's the subject of a scene which goes on for far too long. Austin Powers has an improvisational quality to it. It's very much like an extended SNL bit, but for some reason it just works for me. The chemistry between Dr. Evil and Scott is great.
But Dad, we just had a breakthrough in group.
I had the group liquidated, you little shit. They were insolent.
I find Austin Powers' dumb face and voice hilarious.
Let me ask you a question, and be honest. Do I make you horny? Randy?
I will say that the movie doesn't get as much mileage out of its premise as it could. With James Bond, you have so much material to make fun of, but Austin Powers spends a lot of time on meandering dialogue between eccentric characters. I would rank Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery just a slight notch above Spaceballs. Following the success of the first film, Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me was released in 1999. This film feels even more like a collection of skits than its predecessor. Basically, the premise of the movie is Dr. Evil steals Austin's mojo, making Dr. Evil cool and Austin not cool. This is a funny premise, but isn't really used for much of anything. Austin Powers is basically the same character but with ED, and Dr. Evil is basically the same character except for one scene where he's not. I wouldn't particularly care if the jokes were really funny, but they're not really. There's lots of poo-poo and fart jokes, like way more than I was expecting. Austin Powers literally drinks Fat Bastard's liquid shit at one point. The film has more singing and dancing than the last one, and relies more on pop culture references, which are absolutely dated.
What should we...
Nothing, I'm sure Operation Banana Ram will be huge.
What do you think?
And these factors, combined with the lack of improved writing and performances, make the film feel uninspired as a whole. I would rank Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me just below International Man of Mystery. Kicking off the 21st century, we have the 2000 film Scary Movie. Scary Movie's an interesting one for a few reasons. Firstly, it kickstarted arguably the most successful franchise in parody history, and aspects of its style would go on to define parody in the 2000s for better or worse. Scary Movie's also interesting in the fact that it parodies a parody. Scream is already self-aware, so it's a strange subject for a spoof. As far as the film itself, it's a mixed bag, but overall I enjoyed it. It's definitely a product of the late 90s / early 2000s, with quite a bit of raunchiness just for raunchiness sake, and those kind of jokes are mainly the ones that fall flat and hold the movie back, which is a bit of a shame because the film has a few really funny visual gags, and some hilarious line delivery.
Oh my god, we hit a boat! Where's the foot?
The movie's at its best when playing with horror movie tropes and character tropes, and at its worst when throwing in lazy pop culture references and sex humor. I'm gonna rank Scary Movie just above Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. Following the success of the first film, Scary Movie 2 was rushed into theaters in 2001, and it certainly feels that way. Scary Movie 2 barely has jokes in it. Tim Curry's character is a pervert. That's it. Malcolm's older brother wants to have sex with Anna Faris, which is valid, but it's only in the movie because sex equals funny. There's a guy in a wheelchair and a guy with a withered arm, and they make fun of each other. The point is, these aren't jokes, they're just sex-related premises, and or cheap knocks on disabilities. Scary Movie 2 isn't lowbrow, it's no-brow. It's completely lacking a brow. The film had a few visual gags, none of which landed, and the random ordering of scenes and plot lines made it feel somewhat like a fever dream. I'm gonna rank Scary Movie 2 below High Anxiety. That brings me to 2001's Not Another Teen Movie. And it is the most 2001 movie I've ever seen.
What happened there? Damn, shorty. Dog is pretending to be Asian and shit. That cracker is white.
Can't he see that, yo?
Not Another Teen Movie is a true parody and really nails all of the cliched plot and character beats of the genre. There's quite a bit of intentional stupidity and good delivery.
Who's that?
It's my mother.
You have her eyes.
The film has some funny visual gags, particularly the Siamese twins smoking, and a really good running gag in the form of an undercover student. A lot of the movie is intentionally as vulgar and over the top as possible, and I get that it's part of the parody, but it's still kind of just gross to watch. Look, nudity. Look, poop. She's making out with an old lady. I'm gonna rank Not Another Teen Movie just above Blazing Saddles. Concluding the Austin Powers trilogy, we have the 2002 film Austin Powers in Goldmember. Goldmember is one of the films I've seen most in my life. It may even be the film I've seen the most. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is.
You know, this is causing me serious psychological harm.
I don't know.
Who am I?
The film has many memorable lines which live rent-free in my head.
I love gold. The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it, the texture.
Goldmember is a hilarious character. It's great to see Mini-Me turn good and Scott turn evil, and the flashback to young Austin and Dr. Evil is one of my favorite scenes in the series. It's still often lowbrow and relies on poo-poo and pee-pee, but as a showcase of delivery and an exercise in stupidity, the film is really funny. The jokes that are constructed, as well as the visual gags and performances, all improve on that of the previous films in the series. And I appreciate the film's effort to give everyone an arc and tie up the series. In my heart, the film is number 1, but realistically I'd rank it just above The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. Following the success of the first two films, Scary Movie 3 was released in 2003, with David Zucker, 1/3 of ZAZ, signing on to direct the film. The original script was written by Friedberg and Seltzer, but David Zucker, comedic genius that he is, threw that script in the garbage. And thank God he did, because the film is hilarious. David Zucker really knows how to direct actors to get the dumbest and funniest performances out of them.
Smoke all you want, you're gonna get hit by a bus. That's not fooling anyone.
Anna Faris is great, Regina Hall is great, Simon Rex absolutely kills it. Scary Movie 3 has a classic feel to it. It's very 80s in its comedic approach, with tons of dry delivery and slapstick. The film is mainly a parody of The Ring and Signs, with a bit of The Matrix and 8 Mile thrown in there, but the jokes land so hard that it's a great comedy regardless of whether or not you understand the references. The film has a bunch of great visual gags and funny dialogue.
The dogs are acting strange.
Scary Movie 3 gets stupidity down to a science.
But I can tell when danger's near. I just...
Cindy.
And it might partly be because I wasn't expecting much out of it, but the film made me laugh really hard almost the entire time. And despite the fact that it has a couple of moments that fall flat and/or are dated, Scary Movie 3 is an excellent comedy. And I would rank it at the number 2 spot just above Airplane. Next up, we have the 2004 film Team America World Police. It's not only a parody of Hollywood action movies, but also satirizes the American military and foreign policy. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Matt Damon.
With characters and lines that are as cliche and over the top as possible.
Feels so cold.
You have to hang on, Carson.
Sorry, babe. Looks like this was a one-way ticket.
But it's all done using puppets instead of actors, and the film gets a lot of laughs out of this concept alone. And the film makes it evident that Trey Parker and Matt Stone really know their action movies, from the corny one-liners to the ticking clock, down to the plot structure. And it has some absolutely hilarious songs courtesy of Trey Parker.
Freedom isn't free. No, there's a hefty fucking fee.
So I'm gonna put Team America World Police at the number 2 spot behind Top Secret. 2006 was a dark year for parody as it saw the release of Date Movie, created by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. It's hard to even explain why these guys' movies are so terrible without just watching them, but I'm gonna do my best. The writing is so unfunny that often I was confused during scene transitions, because the editing implies there was a joke. Unfunny things just happen, and then we just move on to the next scene. Remember Napoleon Dynamite? Remember Wedding Crashers? Look, she's fat, like the girl from Shallow Hal. You can tell when the movie just stops even trying to have jokes because people will start singing and/or dancing. It was fucking torture.
Forever, forever, he gives you his heart and he loves you forever and ever.
All of the acting is terrible, not even in a funny way, just terrible and cringy. All blocking and slapstick fall completely flat. The editing is anti-humor. I mean, it's against the very idea of comedy. Things are just cut at the wrong time.
My precious.
Did I mention the soundtrack is really dated and cringy? It sounds like it's desperately trying to be hip.
Let's go.
Date Movie was actually the death knell for 2000's parody, because despite having no merit, the film took in quadruple its production budget, which is the best evidence for atheism that exists. I'm gonna put this wet fart of a film in dead last. Following the success of the third film, Scary Movie 4 was released in 2006, with director David Zucker and writers Pat Proft and Craig Mazin returning with the help of Jim Abrahams. Given the talent of the crew, the only conclusion I can come to is that it was a movie no one really wanted to make. It just feels kind of uninspired. For instance, the film is a parody of War of the Worlds and The Grudge, a sci-fi and horror film, much like Scary Movie 3 was a parody of Signs and The Ring. It comes off like they needed a script, so they just did the same thing again, but with 2 new movies. But worse. The Tom Cruise character being a bad father is a funny premise, but doesn't really go anywhere. Everything about the Grudge parody falls flat as well. It pains me to say it, but Scary Movie 4 was pretty bland and bad, and I'd rank it just below Hot Shots. Next up, we have the dastardly duo Friedberg and Seltzer's 2007 film, Epic Movie, and it makes Scary Movie 4 look like Scary Movie 3. Oh god.
Nacho!
Just having your friends do their best Nacho Libre impersonation is not a joke. How about Captain Jack Swallows?
It's kinda gay, dude.
They're not laughing. Somebody rap.
We got these dope ass grills from melted to bloom.
Quick, start dancing. These are not jokes.
Harry likes to get wasted, then show off his sorcerer's stones.
Perhaps the most insulting thing of all is that the title card for the film says Fantastic Movie, leading me to believe that the title was changed during post-production, but they were too lazy to update the title card. I'm actually convinced that's what happened. It's almost like a social experiment to determine what audiences will put up with. How unfunny can we be and still make money? Saving me from the throes of insanity is 2007's Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story. It's a parody of musician biopics, with a bit of Elvis, Johnny Cash, the Beatles, Brian Wilson, and more. Walk Hard impressively nails every aspect of what is kind of a niche genre, even down to having excellent original songs of its own.
And I'm guilty as charged.
The direction and performances are great with a ton of hilarious delivery. The film has a lot of great running gags that live rent-free in my head, particularly the wrong kid died gag.
Oh, you be careful now, you hear? Before you go and say something you're gonna regret for the rest of your days.
Like what? Like the wrong kid died?
Oh, no!
Anytime I'm watching a suspiciously jolly scene in a drama, I think of this movie.
I'm gonna be an astronaut, and I'm gonna go to the moon. There's nothing I won't do in this long, long life of mine.
Because the film was released in the mid-2000s and was co-written and produced by Judd Apatow, it kind of gets lumped in with his other productions, and I don't feel the film ever really got the credit it deserves. It was interestingly directed by Jake Kasdan, the son of Lawrence Kasdan, and he did a great job behind the camera. It's still one of the funniest comedies of the 2000s. I would rank Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story just above The Naked Gun. The dastardly duo followed up Epic Movie with 2008's Meet the Spartans, and I actually think it's worse. They literally can't think of jokes, so they just have panels, like American Idol. They do that like 3 times with 3 different shows. Simon Cowell was in Scary Movie 3 because they were having a rap competition. There's a reason he was there that actually made sense and was a joke. There's a scene where they have a Yo Mama battle. There's a lot of blurred vag. Also, why does someone have to get fucking tickled and start giggling in every fucking Friedberg and Seltzer movie? In Date Movie, when she's getting her toenails sawed off, she starts giggling. And that's the joke, is that it would be ticklish. What's the fucking deal with that? Remember Casino Royale? The joke is he has a dog bite his balls. But of course, before the dog bites his balls, it has to lick them, so then he can be tickled and laugh. It's blatantly soulless, as if the joke is on you for buying a ticket to the film. It's gonna take something truly insulting to top this one. Up next, we have 2008's superhero movie, written and directed by Craig Mazin with David Zucker as producer. The film has a couple really funny visual gags.
Maybe one day you could take me for a ride in your car.
and a couple of jokes which build upon themselves in a way that reminded me of classic Zucker films. The film uses Sam Raimi's Spider-Man as a template, but really this is just a structure on which to hang jokes. A lot of the comedy is either just slapstick or stupid dialogue, which I'm okay with because the slapstick is well timed. Some jokes clearly had thought and effort put into them, and some are just farting. The writing is certainly leagues above that of the Dastardly Duo, but not consistently funny enough to warrant a rewatch. Superhero movies so strange for me. A movie with hilarious moments that's overall just okay. I would rank it just a notch above Young Frankenstein. That brings me to the Dastardly Duo's 2008 disaster piece, Disaster Movie, which is indeed a disaster, but not so much a movie. There are a lot of disaster movies to make fun of, but I guess that would take effort, so these are the kind of jokes we get instead. Juno shoots breast milk into the eyes of Sarah Jessica Parker's character from Sex and the City and says, "Got milk?" The princess from Enchanted says, "I have a yeast infection," and then picks up a sourdough and says, "Sourdough, anyone?" One of the chipmunks says chipmunks love nuts before biting a character's nuts. I was actually surprised he didn't tickle him first and make him giggle. They keep explaining the joke like we're too stupid to understand it. There's a tornado and Iron Man gets crushed by a cow, so one of the characters says, "Man, that twister shot out a cow."
Oh, man, that twister shot out a cow.
In case we were like, where'd the cow come from? At one point, Juno's like, Vince Vaughn is bloated in this one movie, and Vince Vaughn is bloated in this other movie. So the joke is obviously that Vince Vaughn is bloated. But then in case the audience are actually smooth-brained apes, Juno says, "I guess Vince Vaughn is bloated in general." One of the jokes is that Amy Winehouse had a drug addiction. This one actually pissed me off because one Amy Winehouse song contributes so much more to society than all of the Dastardly Duo's work combined. And then they say that Hayden Christensen ruined Star Wars when they literally ruined an entire genre. There is so much singing and dancing. There's a High School Musical song that went on for a scary amount of time. The cherry on the diarrhea cake is that the film has the most annoying character in the history of cinema.
Lots of mind-altering, enchanting drugs!
Is Disaster Movie somehow worse than Meet the Spartans? Disaster Movie is less boring, but more annoying. With boring, at least you can pretend something else is on screen. But watching Disaster Movie felt like I was being assaulted by bad comedy. It's almost impressive that a film can be so bad, it makes me view Meet the Spartans positively by comparison. Next up, we have the 2008 war parody Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder follows a bunch of actors making a war movie that goes about as disastrously as possible. While the setup is a little contrived, it is a fun premise that also allows the film to parody method acting, as well as acting in general. The film looks and sounds great as well, with a lot of effort put into imitating the typical war movie formula, and it has quite a few fun twists and turns which keep the movie fresh. Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is risky, to say the least, but it's a risk that pays off.
I don't believe you people.
Huh? What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people?
That being said, I think Tom Cruise steals the show with a memorable and truly transformative performance. The movie also starts with some hilarious fake trailers, which are probably the funniest thing in the movie. Tropic Thunder is a unique comedy with some fun character work and some big risks, and I would rank it just a notch below Goldmember, which I feel is more rewatchable. That brings me to the 2009 blaxploitation parody Black Dynamite. Black Dynamite, like Goldmember, is one of the films I've seen most in my life. The film, probably more so than any other film on this list, really nails the imitation. The film also goes above and beyond other comedies in its use of the tools of filmmaking. It doesn't just have funny dialogue and great delivery.
They call it Asclepius' staff. It's a symbol the medical field uses to this day.
I've seen it.
It has jokes involving intentionally rough camera work and editing, stock footage, reused footage, rear projection, and other jokes which benefit from a knowledge of filmmaking. For instance, the guy reading out action lines from the script as if it's dialogue.
Excuse me, brothers. The Miltons turned startled.
There are plenty of subtle jokes which are almost impossible to notice on your first viewing. Black Dynamite also has the funniest use of music in any film I've ever seen.
somebody broke into Jimmy's pants.
The film has a ton of lines which live rent-free in my head.
Jimmy, I am 18-year-old Black Dynamite, and you're my 16-year-old kid brother, and you are high as a kite yet again.
That being said, I'm gonna place Black Dynamite above superhero movie. Next, we have the 2010 slasher parody Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Basically, the premise is a bunch of college kids scare themselves into dying in various horrific ways, and it's really a brilliant idea. Chad and Tucker are hilarious characters, elevated by excellent delivery.
I can't believe this is happening.
Will you fucking quit it with this thing, okay? It doesn't work out here.
And Alan Tudyk kinda steals the movie.
What the hell is wrong with you kids?
But the movie falters a bit in its execution. Many of the film's comedic setups rely on the performance of the lead actress. You don't buy the chemistry between her and Dale at all. It's kind of the emotional core of the movie, and it's something that's oddly taken quite seriously. Dale is a redneck, but also a secret genius, which plays into the greater themes of the film.
Anthemis nobilis. That's the ingredient in chamomile tea that can cause an anaphylactic reaction in rare cases where people are allergic to it. Like I said, I remember weird stuff.
And it just kind of gave me secondhand embarrassment, you know? I know it sounds like I'm being harsh, but these things really drag the film down for me because it does have its moments of brilliance. So I would rank Tucker and Dale vs. Evil just above Scary Movie 2. Now that we've talked about a couple actual movies, let's return to the dastardly duo, specifically their 2010 wet fart, Vampires Suck. I can't even be disappointed anymore because I know what these movies are. Violence, pee-pee, farting, dancing to really dated music, references that have absolutely no tie-in with what they're parodying, and Vampires Suck has all of those things. There are moments which could be jokes but are pulled off with horrendous timing.
Population? 3,120. Holy shit! Make that 3,119.
And then of course some moments where you're wondering what the joke even is. They're bullying Bella at school, so they put a "kick me" sign on the back of her shirt. And then some bullies kick her. I'm not sure if that qualifies as a joke. They do a spoof of the Twilight car scene, and the way the student screams just feels like he's not trying at all. The direction is so lazy. The question is, where would I rank it among their filmography? Vampires Suck is almost entirely a parody of Twilight. It's not just a bunch of disconnected references. These factors make it automatically better than Epic Movie, Meet the Spartans, and Disaster Movie. And shockingly, there were jokes in the film. The finger food joke. It's not funny, but it is a joke.
Finger food?
I'm gonna rank Vampires Suck just above Date Movie because it had slightly less dancing. Because Vampires Suck unfortunately made money, our next film is 2013's The Starving Games. I thought it couldn't get any worse than Disaster Movie, but The Starving Games is even more of a non-movie. It looks shockingly cheap. It's like they couldn't afford sets, so they just filmed outside of some abandoned warehouse and in the local high school's theater. I mean, the framing is fucking terrible. There are countless examples of the film just breaking the most basic rules of framing, and the editing and sound are even worse than their other movies. Just look at this. It's worse than a YouTuber movie. I mean, there's an annoying orange joke that looks worse than the annoying orange. Their other movies legitimately seem professional by comparison. Now you might say, well, it's low budget. Of course it looks and sounds terrible. You know what had the same budget as The Starving Games? Moon. So where did that $5 million go? I'll let you answer that because if I answer it, I might get sued. I mean, this is as cynical as it gets. At some point, they look straight in the camera and acknowledge that it's not funny.
That makes me laugh, Bob.
The Starving Games is so boring. It's so fucking boring. I don't even know how this is possible, but for the 5th time in this video, I am crowning the new biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. Next up, we have the final entry in the Scary Movie franchise. For now, Scary Movie 5, which was released in 2013. I appreciate that the film tried something new with the Paranormal Activity parody, but that doesn't mean it's good. The static camera somewhat limits the framing, not to mention half the movie's presented in a standard style anyway, so it feels quite disjointed. Even when there's a decently written joke and you have Simon Rex saying it, it fails to get a laugh.
We don't lick our balls in this house.
Sorry, won't happen again.
Which just goes to show the importance of direction and timing. Now, with all that criticism out of the way, the film did get 1 or 2 laughs out of me. The train visual gag is great, and that's about it. And I'd rank it just below Scary Movie 4. Alright, let's just get this one over with. Super Fast, 2015. The only thing super fast about this movie was the way it exited my brain immediately after seeing it. It was the most boring Friedberg and Seltzer film. I can't be convinced that they wanted to make it. Really, you're doing a Fast and Furious 1 parody in 2015? You know how every one of their movies has like one joke? This movie's joke is that Paul Walker's character talks like a surfer bro.
Nervous?
No.
I am. I'll admit it.
I almost wanted to give the movie credit because at least it's not The Starving Games, but it had a budget of $20 million.
The math doesn't add up.
Is it suable to call a movie a scam? Is it the worst movie I've ever seen? I don't know. It's kind of not even a movie. And that's it for the rankings. I have the final rankings on screen now in case you want to pause and take a closer look. With all that out of the way, you're a real one if you made it to this point in the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Cheers to you and all of the great spoofs we've gotten over the years.
No, I haven't studied. Oh no, I'm back in school. I can't believe I'm back in school. Thank God.